So let's dive into one of the greatest maritime mysteries of all time, the Lost Franklin Expedition. It's an absolutely incredible story of ambition, of cutting-edge technology, and a disappearance so complete that it stumped an entire empire for over a century and a half.
Just try to picture it. This was the world that was waiting for them. It's a completely unforgiving landscape where just staying alive is a constant battle, and it's into this brutal, beautiful, and empty world that our story sails.
And that's the big question, isn't it? The one that's haunted historians and adventurers for generations. 129 men just swallowed by the ice, leaving behind, well, nothing but silence. To figure this out, we've got to go back to the beginning.
Okay, so let's start with the disappearance itself. This was a mission that set off with all the confidence and power of the British Empire behind it, only to just vanish, kicking off one of the biggest search and rescue operations in history.
So what exactly was this mission? I mean, why was it so important that they'd risk everything for it? And who was the man they chose to lead this massive undertaking?
You see, the Northwest Passage wasn't just some fantasy for mapmakers. No, it was the key to dominating global trade. Finding it would have been a game changer, a massive win for the British Empire, basically showing the rest of the world who was boss on the high seas.
And this huge ambition, it was all placed on the shoulders of 129 officers and men, led by a seasoned explorer, Sir John Franklin.
They set sail on two of the toughest ships in the Royal Navy, the HMS Erebus and the HMS Terror.
And these ships were packed with enough food and supplies to survive in the Arctic for 3 full years. There was this real sense of optimism, a feeling that they were ready for literally anything the ice could throw at them.
And the technology on board was truly the best of its time. We're talking hulls reinforced with iron plates to smash through ice. They had steam engines from locomotives to help push their way through. There was a fancy new heating system to keep the cabins from freezing. And, critically, they had thousands of tinned food cans, a new invention that was supposed to make starvation at sea a thing of the past. By all accounts, these ships were basically unsinkable, a real testament to that Victorian-era confidence. But after they sailed into that white wilderness, crickets. The silence just stretched on, from months into years. And back home, a very worried nation started to ask, where in the world is Sir John Franklin?
This was it. This was the last time any Europeans saw the Erebus and Terror. A couple of whaling ships saw them heading west into that maze of Arctic islands. And after that, they sailed right off the map and into legend.
5 years later, the very first clues finally turned up on a place called Beachy Island. Search parties found signs that the crew had camped there for a winter. But honestly, the discovery just made things weirder. There were these neat stacks of empty food tins, tools left behind, but no journals, no messages, and absolutely zero sign of where the ships or the 129 men went. It's like they just got up and walked away into nowhere. The real breakthrough, the thing that changed everything, wouldn't come for another 9 years, with the discovery of a single, chilling piece of paper that finally gave the dead a voice.
It was found inside a pile of stones on King William Island. This note was the first and the only written message ever recovered from the expedition, and in just a few sparse, desperate sentences, it laid out the beginning of the end.
So, with this one note, we suddenly had our first clear timeline. It told us the ships got stuck, hopelessly trapped in the ice, way back in 1846. Their commander, Franklin himself, died the next summer. And by the spring of 1848, the survivors made an absolutely desperate call. They had to abandon the ships and try to walk south to safety. Now, using this timeline and finally listening to the stories from local Inuit hunters, a truly horrifying picture started to come into focus. Scientists and historians began to piece together what happened in the crew's final agonizing days. And one of the expedition's biggest tragedies, this cruel irony, might have been that cutting-edge tinned food. It was supposed to be their lifeline, but it may have actually been their poison. Modern science suggests the cans were sealed with lead and done so poorly. So with every single meal, the crew was probably poisoning themselves just a little bit. It would have led to physical weakness, paranoia, terrible judgment, right when they needed to be at their sharpest.
So this perfect storm of disasters led them to their final desperate act, a death march. They were trapped, they were weak, they were likely sick from lead poisoning. The remaining 105 men set out across the frozen tundra, dragging these ridiculously heavy lifeboats, hoping to reach a trading post hundreds of miles away. It was a journey that not a single one of them would survive.
And this is where the story reveals its darkest secret. The skeletons that were found scattered along that path south, well, they showed cut marks, marks that were consistent with butchery. The conclusion was grim, but it was inescapable. In their final, desperate days, the last survivors had to resort to the ultimate taboo just to stay alive.
For over a century, that's pretty much where the story ended, a ghost story about starvation and ice. But then, in the 21st century, the mystery took this incredible turn. The lost ships were finally found.
Yeah, you heard that right. After more than a century and a half, modern tech finally broke the silence. In 2014, researchers found the HMS Erebus, and then, 2 years later, its sister ship, the HMS Terror, was found, in a spot that perfectly matched the Inuit oral histories that people had dismissed for generations.
The discovery of the Terror was just wow. Because of the freezing Arctic water, the ship is sitting on the seabed almost perfectly preserved. It looks like a ghost ship. There are still plates stacked on shelves, cabins are sealed shut. It's a treasure trove of new clues about what happened in those final months.
So, finding the ships, that solved the biggest piece of the puzzle, right? We know their final resting place. But the story of the Franklin expedition, it is far from over. As researchers start to explore these incredible underwater time capsules, it's a powerful reminder that even when we find answers, the Arctic doesn't give up its secrets easily. The full story may just stay locked in the ice forever.